Hey guys.
What's up?
Yeah. Austin, Will. uh, yeah, so we just wanted to do a video today. Um, Will's actually going to take it after I talk. I just kind of want to introduce us and introduce what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about the Nashville Number system, or we just call it the number system. There you go, Nashville Numbers, which is a really awesome tool for any musician to have, especially for church musicians and worship teams. Our goal is moving forward from here, no time limit, but that everyone on our team would kind of be familiar enough with the Nashville Number system that we can use it on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
If you play regularly on Sunday mornings, or for those people that are new to the team, and we'll start playing, we normally have an MD, like a musical director that is in our ears. That's normally Will, and sometimes Paul Wright. And the goal is that they'll be feeding us information basically to our ears about where we're going in spontaneous moments, or even songs that we have in our set list practice.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to talk too much more about it, but because Will's going to kind of teach it. Will actually is kind of the music extraordinaire.
That's not true.
He's way better than I am at this stuff, and he's actually done these kinds of courses before at his job and at his church that he works at, and it's going to be really awesome. I'm looking forward to being able to use this, like I said, on Sunday mornings from here on out. Soon. So take it away.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for that glowing introduction.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna keep it, and it's not gonna be super formal. It's just more like, instead of me teaching you something, I'm just kind of walking you through. One of the things that I love that BJ says all the time, even during his sermons, is like, we're not talking about things that we haven't gone through already. We're also just inviting you to come into something new. So think of it like that. Like, you might not know any of this, and the term number system and music theory could scare you, because when I first started, it scared me. But don't think of it like that. Just think of it like, hey, we're inviting you into this thing that's ultimately going to make your life easier, especially if you're a musician. So a little bit about me, just to tell you before, I didn't know any of this until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. When I first started playing music, I learned solely by ear, and what that means is that I could hear things and I could play them, and if you told me, this is how the song goes and things like that, I could play them. But, and we'll get to this later where we have a chord chart, but if you sat this in front of me, it looked like hieroglyphics. I couldn't, it didn't compute. So I would just basically be like, yeah, I know what a G chord is and a D chord, and then I would kind of have to fumble my way through it. Austin probably remembers that. There's multiple times where he was trying to show me things, and I'd be like, yeah, dude, I got that. And then I would just butcher it. I didn't know what I was playing.
Now the Padawan is the master.
Yeah, whatever. So coming from somebody that has been on both sides of the spectrum, I can say that this has made my life 1,000 times easier, and it's made me a better musician. And I've seen that happen to everybody that knows it. Pretty much everybody that knows it says, yes, this makes me better. So Nashville Numbers, I called this the how and the why. I'm going to start with some fundamentals. So again, this might sound boring to you, but I encourage you just to kind of have an open mind. Take notes if you want to take notes. Like, this is going to be up, so you can come back and watch it anytime. Just kind of follow along, and I'm going to have some stuff on the board here. You'll see me flipping through my notes too, so we're just going to learn it together, okay? So Nashville Numbers, basically the way that I look at it, and the way that most people I know look at it, is like it's its own secret language between musicians. When you know it, and when you can understand it, just like you can, your own language, you're able to basically do things, and you're able to say things to each other without really doing and saying them, if that makes sense. And I'm going to explain that more as we get later on in terms of like spontaneous moments and things like that. But especially with that, especially during worship, you're able to just kind of use this secret tool that you have, and just in a moment go somewhere completely different. So It basically it allows you to speak this language between musicians, and it opens the door to new places, new creative places that you might have been kind of scared to go to before. So that's what this is. And like Austin said, the reason that we're talking about it is so that we can all learn it together and be able to talk this language together. So before we get to the main course here, we're going to work through a few appetizers, okay? A little thing. So we're going to go through, I'm going to call this the notes. Okay, so again, you can take notes and write along as well if you want to.
Aaron's here. He actually.
Aaron's taking notes. Yeah,
notes.
he's taking notes. He's very studious. Yeah.
Everybody say hey.
Yeah, everybody say hey, Aaron. He's working the camera and moral support here as well. So we're going to start with the notes, and then we're going to go to the keys. And I'm going to write kind of sloppy, but I'll walk you through it. The keys / scales. And you notice I've got a piano here, Austin's got his guitar. We're going to play through a couple things, just show you what it sounds like, that sort of thing. So that's number 2. Then number 3, the chords. Okay, and then finally we get to the numbers. Okay, now if it seems like I'm trying to fly through this, I'm not. I just don't want to bore you to tears because I can sit here and talk about this all day. But ultimately, I want to make this kind of short enough where it's palatable, digestible, for you to sit, and hopefully in 30 minutes we can get this done, I'm hoping. Aaron's got the timer going and he's gonna yank me off the screen if I start going too long. So we're gonna start with the notes, okay? So let me do a quick adjustment. And let's start with the notes. Speaking of notes, if you want the notes that I actually wrote for this, I will send them to you. We realize it's about 5 pages long, so don't let that freak you out. But I will send this to you if you want, no charge. So first things first, music requires notes, okay? It's not just sounds. We hear that a lot, like, oh, there's these melodies and there's these sounds and there's these things, but really what you're actually playing are notes, right? It's not like you're just pulling frequencies out of thin air and kind of going like that. So we need to understand that there are notes, and specifically there are only 12 total notes in music, okay? 12 total notes in music. That means on the keys, on the guitar, on the bass, on the didgeridoo, on the triangle, on the drum, not the drums, tambourine, yeah. In any type of instrument in music, there are only 12 notes, and you might say, that makes 0 sense. I'm looking at this keyboard. There's probably 88 keys here. There's at least 15 frets on that guitar and 6 different strings. So do the math. How does that add up? Well, I'm going to show you first of all, and really what you're going to see is there's a pattern that forms, and then you're just going to repeat that pattern in kind of what's called higher octaves, which just means you're starting at a low point and you're working to sound higher and higher and higher. Okay, so we can start anywhere, but I'm going to start, since I have the keyboard right in front of me, I'm going to start with the key that most people start with on keys is C. And hopefully you can hear that okay. Bless you. We're going to start with C. So I'm going to write it out here. So remember, 12 total notes. We're going to just follow along, okay? I'm going to kind of, do that. All right, so C. Now you're going to hear, first of all, I want you to hear this. Oh, not that. All right. So what hopefully you just noticed was that I started with a low kind of sound and I worked my way up. Almost like I'm going up a big flight of stairs. And then we ended up here, which is actually the same note that we started at, and I'll explain how that works. So we're just going to follow in order what we just played, okay? C, we've got C sharp, D. It's hard to do this like this, so I'm trying my best. D sharp, E, then you've got F, sorry about my handwriting, F sharp, I'm going to come back here, G, sharp, A, and again, if this is totally new to you, don't worry. You'll see how the pattern works in just a second. A sharp, oops, A sharp, B, and then check this out, C. What? How did that happen? How did this get here? Well, remember, I just told you there's only 12 notes in music, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, I didn't say 13 because this is the same note. It just starts all over again, okay?
Yeah.
So literally, you started here on one side of your instrument, and it would sound the same way on a guitar. You start at the low point, you work your way up back to where you started, but now you're in a higher octave, so you can do the same thing. And then the pattern just repeats itself, okay? So, again, if it seems like I'm flying through, I'm not. I could spend all day talking on this, but I really want to get to the Nashville numbers. I just want you to understand what is making those up first. So,
Right.
again, 12 total notes. You could literally start at any of these notes and follow, just like we learned in school, like patterns and all these things. Follow the sequence, and then you would notice it just keeps repeating itself. Like there's not a Z note or an H note or a Q note or a K. It's not the alphabet. A lot of people do get confused by that. You would be surprised, but it's literally just a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over and over again. So my challenge to you, and I'm going to give you challenges throughout this, so if you need to pause it, do what you got to do, then come back, whatever. But my challenge is that you actually do this at home as some homework, right? Sit down just like I did with a piece of paper and take from these notes, okay, here's my 12 notes, and then start from any point. Like say, okay, let's start from A now. What does that look like? A sharp, B, C. Then you can come here, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, back to A. It's the same thing, right?
At the end of this, there's going to be a pop quiz.
Yeah, there's going to be a pop quiz, and no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I was going to continue with that, but there's just no point.
No pop quiz, just kidding.
All right, so that's the notes. It's that simple. 12 of them on any instrument, anywhere, anytime, any place. If you hear somebody telling you otherwise, chances are they know more than me, and just turn off that video. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I've heard people try to say there's like, these kind of weird notes and frequencies, and that could be true, but I just kind of stick with the meat and potatoes, the basics, okay? All right, so we've gone through the notes. Let's get to the keys, not the keys, but the keys / scales. Okay, this was really hard for me to understand when I first started. What is a key? What is a scale? Why does it matter? That sort of thing. It didn't really click with me for a while. But I kind of figured out my own little way of picturing it, and it's pretty funny and kind of silly and stupid, okay, because I'm a child. So first of all, there's two parts to this, and one part I didn't really write down because I could spend way too much time on. But there's a thing to figure out, kind of like distance between the notes and things like that. Whole tones, semitones, half step, whole step is the same thing, just different words. So if you want to do more research on that, again, if you want to do research on any of this, there's a ton of stuff online.
Yeah.
Some great material out there, so you can check it out. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube. That's where I learned a lot of this, honestly. But anyway, the best way that I can explain this to you, I'm going to do a little drawing, right? A little drawing, okay? A little house. Let me put a little door on there. There's a window, right? There's a little kid over here playing soccer and a goal, okay? This is a drawing, okay? So, with our notes, we have 12 of them. We just had on the board. When we talk about keys, it's basically saying that these notes like to live together up to about 7 at a time, and that gives them their own key, right? So not all 12 notes are really going to live together. They don't really get along. But 7 of them at a time can get along, and they live together in the same house. So it goes something like this, okay? And again, I'm going to explain it more in just a second. So let's take C, okay? So we're going to have, I want to stick with the house metaphor, so I'm going to draw them inside the house. I'm going to take away their window, so now they can't see outside, okay? I'm going to go here. We've got C, D, E. You might notice this is looking a little bit different than what I just said. It's not C, C sharp, D, D sharp, anything like that, right? It's just, it looks different because only 7 of these can live together at a time. So C, D, E. We've got F, but still pulling from the same notes. We've got G. We've got A. We've got B. And then C. Little tiny baby C, because it's higher, it's smaller, it sounds smaller to me. Okay? So just like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those notes are happy together and they live in their own house. And we call this the key of C. Okay, the key of C.
Like those are the keynotes, if that helps.
Yeah, those are the key notes. Those are the 7 that stay together, that are happy and they're fine living together. Going back to the song chart thing, I don't know if you can see this, but if you see at the top of this page, and you've probably seen a chart before, it has a little letter right at the top. It says D, okay? This is talking about the key of D. So that means that the chords that we're going to be playing in this song correlate, no pun intended, correlate to the key of D, okay? So I'm going to show you a pattern that you can use, again, as homework, to figure this out with any note, starting from any place, anywhere, anytime, okay? So we've got our key of C, and they're happy, and they've got little Timmy out in the yard playing soccer, and maybe one day he'll go pro or something. We don't know, okay? He's gone now.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Bye, Timmy, okay? All right, so, again, I'm not going to fly through it, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining what this is. But basically, here's the pattern that we can use, okay? And I'm going to call this the scale pattern, okay? And I'm not just calling it pattern for a reason, because we're learning a lot of these different formations, so I don't want you to get confused. Okay, so scale pattern looks something like this. From your first note, okay? The reason why I say that is because you start on the first note and then you follow this pattern. It doesn't just, you don't just start with the pattern by itself, because it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. So from your very first note, you're going to go a whole step. And again, I'll explain these terms just in a second. A whole step, and I'm just going to start writing whole, half. You'll see what I'm doing. So a whole step, then you've got a half, then you have a whole, you guessed it, good job, I hear you at home, you're doing great. And then a half, okay? Whole step, half step, whole, half, from the first note. Let's go back to C, okay? C. If you go a whole step, and look this up, okay, or I'll explain it in another video, maybe we'll make more of these or something. But if you go a whole step, that means you're skipping the note that's right next to it and you're going to the one after that. So instead of going C to C sharp, you're going C to D. Okay, that's a whole step. So if we follow that pattern, we've got C, then we take a whole step from C, that gives us D. I'm just going to start plugging notes in here. Whole step from D is E. My handwriting is about to get real sloppy, so just bear with me. A half step from E is F. There is no E sharp, there's no F flat or anything like that, okay? A whole step from F is G. A whole step from G, and I'm going to come down here, is A. A whole step from A is B. And a half step from B is little tiny C. Just like that, okay? So we have now covered the notes. There's 12 of them, and now we've covered how 7 of them at a time like to live in a house together. Now, again, going back to this little guy and this guy, they're the same note. So if you think, it's just going to start over again, right? So just because I got here doesn't mean that it's over, right? It just means I keep going. And then keep going. Right? All the way up to the top. You can keep going and keep going, okay? So, keys and scales, those are important to know. Pretty important to know, right? So, again, try this out. Start at any note out of those 12 notes that we discussed and see what you get. See if you can find out what the key of E looks like, or what the key of F looks like, or what the key of B flat looks like, or whatever, okay? Really good. So now we're going to move on, and I'm trying to keep time in mind. I don't want to go too long. Okay, all right, we're good. We're good. Look at that. We're doing just fine. He's keeping time.
We got it.
All right. So now we're going to move on to the chords. Okay? To the chords. Okay. If I haven't lost you yet, this is the part where some people tend to get confused, okay? Don't worry, and if, like I said, if you have to skip ahead or skip back or whatever, that's fine. But this is crucial to understand this because they kind of go together. You'll see that in just a second, okay? So now that we know that our notes and we know that they live together in a key, we know what scales are, that sort of thing, we can basically start to put these things together and make real music. This is what we're actually playing when we play these songs. It's not that we're just playing a G note or a D note or an A note. We're actually playing a chord, right? A G chord, a D chord, an A chord. So those are different things, and we need to know that as well. So just like you might have already guessed, and you might see a pattern, there is a pattern with this to figure it out as well, okay? So we're going to keep using the same example key, and then we are going to, we're going to just plug and play, okay? So we've got our notes, and sorry, I'm looking at my notes here because I think they got a little confused, but it's okay. All right, so we've got our notes in the key of C. C, D, E, F, G. Looks like I'm writing the alphabet, but I promise I'm not. A, B, and then little tiny Timmy C. Okay? So, we're going to be pulling from that, all right? But instead of just calling them notes at this point, we're actually going to give them a name for chords, okay? And it looks like this. Let me see here. Oh, I see what I did. I see what I did. I forgot to flip the page. So, instead of just being C note, D note, blah, 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 they actually have a name, okay? So I'm going to write them out. Major, like C major, yes sir. Minor, and this is a minor. And this is a major, major, minor. Here's the one that everybody is like, what is that? Diminished. I'm just going to write dim, and then major. Because we just started right back at the top, okay? So, taking what we learned with the scales, you do the same thing, but now you're giving them some other notes to put them into chords, right, instead of just playing a single note. Now, let me make a clarification for bass players. You don't really have to worry about this, honestly, because you're playing the root note. You might play a higher octave of that note, but it's really rare that you're going to play a B diminished chord on the bass. Actually, I don't even know if that's possible. It is possible. But yeah, I don't know. It would probably sound kind of weird. Yeah. But you're basically gonna be playing a lot of music puns. If you haven't picked up on that, there's a lot of music puns. Anyway, you are gonna be playing the root notes. So at this point, you can kind of skip ahead to the video, whatever. But it's still good to know. Okay.
You got the easy job. Basically.
You got the basically. Now, don't let the terms. Again, don't let the terminology scare you, okay? You can look up what this means. We can talk about chord structure later on. We can talk about triads and all these things. I promise that's not of the devil or anything. Triad, that sounds like a scary word. but no, we're gonna just keep this as it is for now without going into too much depth. But this is a pattern again, so it follows this structure. Also, let me make a disclaimer. I didn't make this at the beginning, but if you already know some of this and you're like, well, what about the minor scale? What about this? What about that? I'm only really referring to the major scale right now, and it's just to cut down on the time of the video and keep it simple without really going all nerdy on it. Okay, so just the major scale, and that's what this is all related to. This isn't all that music theory is. It's actually a lot more, and it gets very scary, and it gets a lot. So we're trying to keep it simple. So anyway, I can take, again, you can take any of those 12 notes, you can plug them into a key, you can put them into a house, and then you can use this pattern on any of those notes, and it's going to work, right? If you start with the key of E, then you have E major, then you have F sharp minor, then you have G sharp minor, then you have A major, then you have B major, then you have C sharp minor, then you have D sharp diminished, and then you have E major again. So it literally works with everything, right? It doesn't matter where you're at or where you're starting, okay? So again, this is, don't really pay attention to this. These change, right? C through C, that changes. The notes will change. But what doesn't change is this pattern, so keep that in mind. Try that with those notes that everything kind of goes back to those 12 notes and then back to the scale, okay? All right? Now, I'm on my last topic. I might go a little bit over time.
That's okay.
But hey, we made it here and you haven't turned off the video yet. So thank you, okay? Thank you so much. So now we're getting to our main course. I hope you saved room because the chef really outdid himself this time. I'm just kidding. All right, the numbers, okay? So we should at this point have a full understanding of everything that we're playing. We know that we're not just making sounds, we're actually playing notes and we're actually playing chords. And that's what makes up music, okay? So, like I said before, the Nashville Number system, it's actually, if you want to get technical, it started off as the numeral system because it's been around for a long, long time. But it was later kind of modified and like tweaked a little bit in I think the 50s or something with studio musicians who actually played in Nashville. It just kind of became the Nashville Number system off of that. So again, we have already said the purpose of this video is to learn this so we can all know this secret language, basically, so that we can communicate and we can go places and we can create in a new way without really having to say anything like, hey, we're going to switch to the key of this and we're going to play a diminished chord and a minor chord and blah, blah, blah. That just gets to be too much, okay? So, this is going to blow your mind, actually, how simple this is. So, literally, all that it is if we take a step back, when we just talked about chords, we take those chords and we just assign a number to them. It's literally that easy.
If you can count.
If you can count.
It's a 7.
And you can hold an instrument.
Yes.
Chances are you can play this.
If you can't count.
If you can't count, then we'll do another video on count. Okay. We'll make it super fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to use C just because we've had fun with C. So C, D, E, F. Then you got G. Then you got A and B, and then little tiny Timmy C. I'm going to keep saying that. Major, minor, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. Minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and then major again. And then the circle of life continues, and it just goes on and goes on and goes on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, literally, watch what I'm about to do. Okay, I actually just said it as I was counting, and I just kind of gave you the answer. But watch what I'm about to do, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, you notice I didn't put 8. You could do that and get super technical if you want, whatever, it's fine. But I'm just saying 1 because it's the same note that we started with. It's just in a higher octave again. Okay. It's that simple. All right, it's literally just, instead of saying the actual chord by name, once you know what key you're in, you're basically, you kind of have an already like definition of what the scale is. And that's a big thing too, because scales are probably the most important thing, to me at least, one of the most important things in music. Knowing your scales, practicing your scales. It's the most kind of like mundane, kind of boring. I actually enjoy it because it's a good exercise, but knowing your scales is kind of like the fundamentals. So if you can learn your scales, then you know what the notes are, then you also know this pattern that we just talked about. Then once Austin says, hey, we're in the key of D, we're gonna play this progression, and he just says numbers. Okay, watch this. I'm sorry, let's go back to the key of C. I don't want to get too confusing. So Austin says on the microphone, or to whoever, he says, hey, we're in the key of C. Let's kind of flow for a minute, because remember what we talked about. This is super helpful for spontaneous stuff.
Yeah.
One of the best things for the number system is for spontaneous moments. So he says, hey, we're in the key of C. I want to change it up, and I want to play this progression. And a progression literally just means a set of chords. It's not anything super fancy. He says, I want to play a 4, a 5, a 6, and a 1. Okay, if you didn't watch any of the other stuff, then that doesn't make any sense to you. You're going to be like, okay, do you mean the 4th fret of my guitar and the 5th fret and the 6th fret? What are you talking about? But hopefully by now you understand he's talking about the 4th chord, which is F major. He's talking about the 5th chord, which is G major. He's talking about the 6th chord, which is A minor. Put a little N there for minor. And then he's talking about the 1 chord, which is C major. That simple, right?
That's it.
And just like that, you've made something that wasn't there before. You've made a progression. You started to make music out of something that made no sense before or wasn't even on the page, right? We just basically, we took the key that we were in and we just kind of expanded that, knowing what we know, and now we're able to go to a different place. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say something real fast
Yes.
too. So like a lot of you guys that play on Sunday mornings already, you'll notice, especially when Will's there, in the middle of like right a song is done, like we've already played what we practiced, we'll kind of do a spontaneous moment, and a lot of times Will might say something like, all right guys, we're gonna go back to the 4, or we're gonna land on the 3.
Yeah.
That kind of like, that's what we're going for. And so when he's doing that, we're all familiar enough to know like, oh, this is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of times when he starts doing that, it's because we're about to start playing something that's outside of like what
The
this
charts.
is.
Yeah.
So just so you kind of know like why, he's already explained why we're going to this. Not only is it important, like I think to know just for any musician, but especially worship teams, I almost sometimes think like this number system was made like
Almost,
specifically for like
Well,
worship.
and if you think about it, like, you know,
Yeah.
like in the studio setting, like it was kind of tweaked for.
Yeah.
It's made for guys that were sitting around, you know, they're saying press record, and then also like they had to be creative at
Right.
times, and they would have to make stuff up. So to make it easier, you know, they had these moments, and you know, that's what it's best for. But you know,
Right.
especially in worship, I mean, it's like an open door, basically saying, okay, let's go here. And the really fun thing is when you can change keys,
Right.
like almost seamlessly, and then you can flow into something totally different in a different key. That's a totally different thing called transposing, modulation, and all this stuff, you know, which just sounds
Cool.
crazy. But all that to say, you know these patterns, you plug in any notes, you got your chords. Then it's easy as counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Over and over and over, right? It's that simple.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about a couple, you know, points, benefits to this, but the 3 that I thought of was, number 1, learning songs and transposing songs. Transposing means you learn a song in one key, like you learn it in the key of C, and then you get there on Sunday, and maybe somebody like Austin's like, hey, I need to change the key of this song, it's way too low. Because Austin typically likes to sing in key of D. It suits his voice, right? So he says, I need to change the key. I got the chart wrong. Can we go to the key of D? To somebody that knows numbers, you can make that change like that.
Right.
There's no need for another chart. There's no need to waste any more time. You can make the change like that, and then boom, we're rolling. Okay? So learning songs, it's super, super helpful when you can take a chart that has chords on it, and then you can start to look at it through the lens of numbers. So instead of chords, you just see, okay, I'm in the key of D. I've got boom, 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 these numbers. And I'm actually, at the end of this video, we're going to break down this chart for our song, Hope Future, and just kind of show you what the chord progression is in numbers. And that's what we'll get to. So learning and transposing songs is super good for that. Creating a spontaneous moment, we've already talked about that. It just opens the door to so much more. And then songwriting. If you're a songwriter or you do music composition, anything like that, this is basically like that extra edge that you can have when you're writing a song or when you're composing something that is able to take it to a new level, right? Instead of having to waste time writing out the chords and doing this and that, which there's nothing wrong with, but it's an extra edge that you can have on your songwriting, able to be flexible and move and do things like that that you weren't before.
That's right.
Right? So, I hope that all that made sense, okay? If it doesn't, look, there's no shame. You can watch this video 1,000,000 times. I will even send this video to you personally so that you can have it on your phone or whatever. I will send you these notes that you can follow along with. And this is something that, again, like Austin said, we're not really expecting it to just be like, okay, well, a few days from now, what's today, Friday? Well, Sunday, everybody's gonna know numbers. That's not realistic, and we're not putting that pressure on anybody. But like I said, we're just welcoming you into this new place that's gonna give us some more room and give us some more creativity, hopefully, and just allow for some new things to happen. So before we go into this, I know we've already gone over 30 minutes. I hope you haven't bored yourself. Oh, dang, 36. That's not bad. I was thinking I was like 45 already.
If you're still watching.
Good job.
Yeah.
If you need to pause, take a bathroom break, get a cup of coffee, whatever. Because the next thing we're going to do, I just wanted to do this kind of for two reasons. Number one, because this is a song that we've really been on lately, because the Lord kind of gave it to us, dropped it on us, and it's kind of a word for the church at this point. Is it good? Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. I thought maybe something happened. But yeah, this...
I left my pickup in there.
Oh, dang. Wait, watch this. This is how you know. Oh, no, I was about to be like, this is how you know you're a guitar player. You got to pick. Aaron's going to get one for us.
Oh,
Wait,
perfect.
Aaron's got it.
All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, that was good. So yeah, Hope Future, we've been playing this a lot, and it's a song that Austin and BJ got, and then I remember we were at this retreat, and I came up with the bridge. The Lord was just like, hey, when you hear the voice of the enemy, you know what I say to you, and that sort of thing. So it all just kind of fell together.
Yeah.
And
it was a divine moment.
It was a divine moment, divine encounter. So yeah, we've been on this song for a while, and I just wanted to use it as an example today, and I've lost my eraser, but oh well, whatever. I wanted to use it as an example so that you can just see kind of in real time how this helps you out, okay? So, Austin, why don't you just play through, I'm going to write it down, but just play through the verse chords, okay? So what do we have?
Yeah.
Wait, let me do this. All right, so we've got Hope Future, and then the key of this song that we typically do it in is the key of D. And then we've got our verse chords, okay? So what are those verse chords, Austin?
G to D.
Okay, so you got G to D,
Yep.
and then you've got G to D again. I'm just going to write out the whole verse.
Again.
You've got G and D again.
And then B minor to A.
And then B minor to A. That's the first verse of the song, okay? Now, I could go through the entire song, and probably not. I might hit the verse, the chorus, and the bridge just so you can see how they differ. But if we take the key of D, if we take those 12 notes that we started with, we take 7 of those, we put them in, we follow that pattern to get 7 of them into a house together. They live in peace. In a key, we've got our 7 notes, then we assign them a name. We assign them the name of either major, minor, or diminished, and then we assign them a number, and that's it, okay? So, in the key of D, and I'm not going to explain all that, but I will write out the key of D for you. You've got D, E, you've got F sharp, you got G, you've got A, B, and then you've got C sharp, and back to little d, okay? So major, minor, on, minor, major, major, sorry, brain fart. Then you've got minor. I'm gonna erase little tiny Timmy over here because we don't really need him, and then diminished, okay? Now, assign those a number, 1 through 7, and what do we have? G, 1, 2, 3, 4. D, well, that's easy. It's 1. G again. You can see the pattern. We don't even have to count. 1, 4, 1. B minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. And then A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that, you took a chord chart and you made it into a number chart, okay? So now when you're playing this song, you don't really even have to think about this part of it, right? You can just think, you can think 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 6, 5 for the verse, okay? Now again, the reason for that is if by chance somebody else is singing this, or we need to change the key last minute, whatever, we can do that. And look, this does not change. These change because we just changed the key, and they're not going to have the exact same chords and notes, but this does not change. Right. The actual structure of the song does not change. So that's a super, super practical. I've done that a million times. I've had that happen to me. And before I knew this, I would freak out. I mean, if I got to church on Sunday and I learned the song and I studied it in this key, and then the worship leader was like, hey, I need to change it. Can we switch to B flat, right, which is a weird key? I would be like, and I would just be sweating, and I would turn my volume down and act like I was playing, and couldn't even hear me. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, a sound guy. Aaron, hey, can you turn me up back there? Yeah, I would do whatever, because I didn't have any grid for this sort of thing, and it was kind of crippling, honestly, and it was really, really bad. So anyway, that's the verse. I want to hit the chorus just so we can see. Actually, let's go to the chorus. You'll notice a lot of these chords kind of repeat. That's fine. So the chorus.
C.
We've got, what is it?
D.
Yep.
The G. It's a B minor.
Yep.
And finish on
A.
the F. Or A, sorry.
A.
Yeah.
About to say.
Yes.
All right. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 5. So the chorus progression is 1, 4, 6, 5. The verse progression is 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 6, 5, right? So you're already starting to see how easy this is, hopefully. I hope that it hasn't, already just been like, oh my God, there's too much information. But you can literally see the benefit of this and how easy it is and how practical it is to figure out on your own. So that way, if you have to make a change or whatever, it just helps you so much. It's so much faster. And then if we're playing this chorus progression like we have done plenty of times, we're playing this chord progression and something starts to happen, and Austin feels like, hey, we need to go into this other song out of this chorus that we haven't practiced, right? We need to follow the Spirit into this direction. What do? Right? To some people, that's enough to be like, I can't do this. I gotta go. I can't, I'm just not gonna play. I'm just gonna worship, which is fine. But to somebody that understands this, it's like, all right, well, where are we going, right? Because the door's open, and I'm gonna walk right through it, okay? So if he says we need to go to Agnes Day or something like that, you know, he says, okay, well I'm gonna stay in the key of D, and I'm gonna play the following progression, right? He says, I'm gonna play 1, and then 6, 5, and then 4, and then 4, and then back to 1. That's the chorus. Holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. That's that song. Okay? So, sorry, I just
Which, let me just say, the fact that he was able to do that so quickly shows how familiar he is with the number system, because that's almost
it also helps you remember notes.
Yes.
You hear
it's a
people
good
that
point,
have perfect pitch. I don't have perfect pitch. I like to think that maybe I have relative pitch, which means that I can kind of pull out a key in my head, which is just because I've literally spent so much time studying this stuff to the point where it's like stupid. Okay, but that's a good thing. So we've now changed songs, but we're still in the same key, and we have different chords, right? We have a different chord progression. So now we've got D, we've got B minor, A, we've got G, G, and then back to D. So we literally just went from one song, we learned that whole song, we know the numbers for it, so now any key it's going to be the same, not the same notes, but the same numbers. And now we just opened a door over here where we're like, hey, let's go through here before we finish this song off. Let's just go through here and follow what the Spirit's saying. And now we've got something totally new, and it sounds new, and people recognize it, you know, and it's just it's a moment, right?
Yeah.
We turned a song that has moments, we just added another moment to it.
That's right.
So I'm going to stop talking because I could literally talk forever. But my hope is that when you watch this video, wherever it may be, that you give yourself some time to really take it all in. It's probably not going to happen all instantly unless you are a genius. And if that's the case, let me know. I would love to talk to you. Maybe you can teach me some things. But it's probably going to take a while for this to really sink in. And it's going to take a while for Austin to start, you know, implementing it on Sundays. He's not, you know, saying we got to have this by this Sunday. But again, it's something that really, it does take a lot of personal practice. I've spent a lot of time practicing this. I teach people guitar, I teach people music, and I spend a lot of time talking about this and teaching it. If I didn't, I wouldn't be quick with it. You know, I wouldn't be sharp. It would be something that, you know, I have to really sit and think about. So that's kind of like the personal application on your end. I'll send you these notes. You can take notes from this, whatever. But it's really going to take, you're going to see the most out of it when you sit down with your instrument or a instrument and you start to apply this to what we were talking about.
Practice makes perfect.
Practice really does make perfect. And if you're still confused on this stuff, major, minor, diminished, we haven't talked about this, but maybe this is something you can, you know, if we put this on Facebook or whatever, write in the comments. Like if you want to see more stuff like this,
definitely.
we can do more stuff like this. You know,
For
more
sure.
music theory, more composition. If it's helpful, if you enjoyed it, so let us know. Again, I'm very passionate about this. I think it helps us to just grow together and just to be better. So I really appreciate you listening. Thank you for not turning off the video just yet. Thank you, Austin, for allowing this to happen. And
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, thank you.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you guys later.
That's my best friend. All right.